Hey guys, this is Jorge from the Big Bang Podcast. Today I'm joined here by Sergio Langarica. He is the president of the company called Netek, an effective computing platform. They are based in Tijuana, where I live, and I'm happy to have him here today with me to talk about his company and their thoughts on the future of emotional intelligence.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Sergio. So, talk to me about a little bit about your company, Netek.
So Netek is 2 years old now. The original idea came from a graduate student at the local Tijuana Tech University
Okay.
here, and it was basically to measure what was the impact of performing sports, but on the brain using an EEG headset. And that's where the idea was born. They needed some funding, and they kind of started going through their network. And in that process, some of my colleagues, now co-investors in the company, learned about the idea. They pitched it to us. We got some funding from the National Science Foundation here in Mexico as well.
Cool.
And we've been working with 2 different universities. We've had help. With artificial intelligence, and also on the other side with psychology and School of Neuropsychology at one of the local universities. So it's really a group effort. We've been working with 2 universities plus our own internal staff. We've been working now for 2 years, and it's been quite a ride. No, we've had a couple of pivots in the process as well, but we've also grown. Originally, it all started with the EEG headset. And as we've been advancing, we've been incorporating, looking at other technologies. Now we're also working with camera, so also be
Facial
able
recognition.
to detect micro expressions based on Paul Ekman's model of emotions. So we're using that platform. It's also been integrated. The company Netek is the acronym for Neuro Applications and Technologies.
Okay.
And our goal is to take the latest in neuroscience and find commercial applications for them. So that's what we're working on now. We've created our platform. It's in beta right now. It's called VibeTech. Okay. Is what we've named it. And in VibeTech, as it is now, you can take images or video or audio and upload it into the platform, do the processing of that, and it gives you a report which gives you the emotions. So it tells you if you're happy, sad, surprised, and so that's what we've been working on.
Cool. That's so cool. I've always been interested in neuroscience, just from the point of view of understanding people's behavior. So the fact that you're looking at the emotional or detecting emotions from either the EEG and the facial recognition is a very powerful tool. It's a very powerful tool because as well, you guys know this. I mean, us humans can detect us at a certain point. I mean, if we're very aware of it, but a computer, it's I think it's a trick, right? It's a it must be very difficult to do it, to pull it off.
It is. I mean, like I said, there's been a lot of recent advances in research and brain science, and we don't have just a single brain or left and right. I mean, we've got the crocodile brain, the reptilian brain, which is on top of the limbic system. The most recent brain is the prefrontal cortex, which is a lot more logic, and so when you talk about the microfacial expressions, for example, is they happen in milliseconds. So our face actually gives away our emotions, and we might be trained, some of us be trained to be able to detect, what those emotions are. The majority of the people are not.
Yeah.
But knowing where your emotions are, what you're feeling, is a very powerful tool. And there's many different applications to what it is that you can do with the emotions. And it's very interesting because sometimes we don't even know what our own emotions are.
Yeah.
And now we have tools that can help us there.
Yeah.
And there's a tremendous amount of power and tremendous amount of just wealth of information that we could use that for in order to make our lives better.
Yeah. And talking about applications, different applications, what type of applications are you focused on right now, or have you identified?
So when we originally started looking at what segment could we go and where could this be applied, we looked at things such as video games,
Okay.
the creation of video games,
Okay.
applications, for example, yeah, similar to video games, but if you're creating media or movies or even cartoons, anything that you're recording that you're going to be presenting to people, you expect to have some kind of response. So we were looking at that, self-help type things. There's some solutions out there that are also related just to getting to know yourself better.
Okay.
And using that information for personal empowerment.
Yeah.
Fintech.
Fintech, yeah.
Risk, analyzing risk
hot industry.
is an issue, certainly. Is another application, and marketing. Marketing is probably the ones that I mentioned. One of the markets that we see that is more closely related and has a very broad impact, right?
Yeah.
Because it's basically all companies,
Yeah.
and are creating, and now in the world of digital marketing, so all of the content that's being created, we can actually measure that content, whether it be a website or whether it's an image or if it's a video, what impact or what emotions are being drawn from that, and we could use that to help us improve our designs, the marketing materials that we create, or the messages of the brand we're creating. I mean, you can ask a person, what impression do you have of my Netek brand, and you can actually measure it. And one of the very interesting facts here is that I mentioned there's more than one brain, right?
Yeah.
So there's that first impact, that limbic, flight or fight part of the brain, that tends to respond first, and then the prefrontal cortex, which is later, which is more logic. So we could even be saying things, once we've analyzed with the information that differs from what our reptilian brain is communicating.
Yeah.
Or put another way, we might be responding to things. We don't even know why we're responding.
But you're not conscious about it.
Exactly. So the brain operates so quickly that we don't always know what it is. So now we have tools
to look at that,
to be able to detect that.
Yeah.
Those emotions. Yes.
Now there's there's obvious use here behind the scenes as far as because you mentioned you guys been doing R&D for two years.
Mm-hmm.
So there's we're talking about software here that's being interpreting people's facial expressions or the thing. So in terms of what I'm trying to get at is there's an AI application behind this. So what does it, because AI is a big umbrella. It's every day that you see anything new about AI and stuff. Where does this fall into? Like, what category of AI does this fall into?
Right. So this is affective computing. So basically, it's systems or devices that are used to detect emotions, to simulate emotions, to process the emotions. So that's the category, affective computing. And within effective computing, well, there's various applications. I mean, something that you see more recently is the personal assistants.
Yeah.
They fall into these categories. The Alexa, the Siri. That is a very clear path that effective computing is taking, which is how do we interact with the machine, and how does the machine interact with us? And at the end of the day, we're humans, and humans have emotional relationships, and now we're interacting with a machine.
Yeah.
So the machine, is learning how to detect those emotions, and the AI then has an application with regards to, well, how can you maybe improve that relationship, or how can, use that in order to facilitate. And a very simple example of that is the virtual assistants.
Yeah, and I'm imagining here something like like the movie Her. I mean, a little bit. You know the movie Her?
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
No,
Oh my god,
now I gotta go watch it.
you gotta see that one because that's like, well, basically the guy Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with his AI virtual assistant, which is Scarlett Johansson, but it's her voice. It's not her physically, and you know, it's like talking to another human being, but obviously the I mean, it's a very that's sort of like the future to which we want to get to, where the thing actually, you know, is talking to you and are you sad? Where are you sad? What's wrong with you? You know, these types of things that you have conversations with friends or loved ones,
Yes.
and now you're doing it with a freaking computer, right?
I mean, science fiction, right? I mean, when I was a kid, Star Trek was like my ultimate show, and it's just we're working on it. Right?
Yeah.
We'll get out there into space, but I mean, these we imagine what the future is like, and we're working on it.
Awesome. So in terms of to be more direct, why does it matter? Why would I mean, obviously you guys are for profit, so you're selling a platform to someone. Why does it matter for a company, either a small company to a big company to be able to recognize emotions? Why should it care?
Well, we're a for-profit company, and there's many other for-profit companies out there, and or many other communicators that have message to send. Right.
Mhm.
So the question is, it's like an entrepreneurship. What's your pitch?
Yeah.
And we spend a lot of time as entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
You come up with the idea, and then you got to pitch that idea,
Yeah.
and then you try it over. You constantly, refining to try and get that best pitch.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now you have a tool to help measure your pitch.
Okay.
Right. So, marketing perspective, we create marketing materials because we're trying to sell something.
Yeah.
We're trying to connect with a customer. Yeah. And we're always constantly looking for ways to improve the relationship with a customer. Yeah. Well, how do you measure it? How can you be objective about it, right? So you have things like focus groups where you bring people in. Yeah. You ask them questions, you use surveys, right? There's another mechanism that you can use. So these are tools that we use to help us, measure the effectiveness of a campaign. Right? You go out there and do market testing. Will this work? Will this not work? Maybe very big multi-million-dollar decisions are going to be made based on the results of research. Okay. Right? So we're looking at ways to minimize the risk. Specifically about marketing. So before I send out that,
that video or that Facebook post,
right,
or pay for the Facebook post to be published everywhere.
The Christmas commercial that's going to be on the TV, or it's going to be my next YouTube video that I'm going to put out there for my, Black Friday campaign or something like that. So we're always looking at ways to make things better, to diminish our risk and improve our message, right? So one way to do that objectively is by using our platform, right? So you upload that YouTube video, then run a test and show that to various people and see how they respond. Okay. Right? So that's that's one of the applications. Take your marketing campaign and you run it through this, and you can get feedback with regards to how.
And that's your product name, BiteTech.
Exactly. VibeTech. So VibeTech is the platform that does that. Okay. Yes. Cool. And we also have an API. That's a platform that already exists. But there's, like you mentioned, there's other applications, whether it be fintech, measuring, for example, one of the ideas that was, ironically, we were just talking about, what we were working on, and I happened to be with a CIO of a very large company, and he's like, hey, I have a problem with regards to unpaid loans. So we give credit to our customers, and it seems to me that what you guys are working on, we could use it over here. Meaning, if I can obtain, the emotional, not just the name, how much you make, where you live, standard questions that you have when you're applying for credit. But if you can attach to that, what is the emotional response as part of the same process, then if I can correlate that, then see if I can diminish my negative credit, by using another element of information to help me decide if to give credit and how much credit to give. So that's very unique, and that's something that came from somebody. Exactly. From a real, they saw it. Right. So the API, going back, because it's part of the API. So the thought behind the API is, have the basic building blocks to be able to create a solution for a specific problem. So that's just one example. Yes. Okay. Very good. And as because this is the path of innovation, and there's always roadblocks. What have been some roadblocks that you guys have encountered when pitching this technology? Some of the roadblocks when pitching the technology. Yeah. What type of feedback do you get from people, and how does it look like, that conversation? Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like brain science, right? So it's like when you tell somebody that you're a rocket scientist, and so you tell them you're a brain scientist. So some people are just kind of like, I don't know about that, and it can it really be done? So it's an emerging technology, and obviously we're using machines, computers, and cameras, and EEG headsets. So it's relatively new. So some of the resistance that we get is just well, is it so new that how does it really work? And some of the questions that we get is what is the accuracy rate, for example, so that's where we're using the AI algorithm. Right? That's one of the specific applications, is that as we do more and more testing, as we add to the database, our algorithm is improving. Yeah. Okay. And well, you kind of touched upon this, but which industry, if any, is adopting, that you guys have seen, has adopted this type of technology faster than others? Marketing, yeah, more certainly, but it's not permeated the whole market. And for me, this is like a wave. The wave is growing, and we're at the beginning of the wave, so we know we're on the right wave. Yeah. Right. We're paddling with the wave, but it's still growing. Right. So that's where we are right now. Certainly, we know that in the marketing space, the very large, Fortune 100, maybe some very high end, even political, political campaigns. We've seen just public information, articles of how it's being used, with regards. I think Trump used it. Yeah, he did. Exactly. Yeah. There's even a YouTube video where all these people have these, the caps you guys have. Yeah. The EEG. And they're looking at the message, and then you go back and they see it, like which one resonated the most, and you see the graphs go up. Yeah. I mean, what are they looking at? They didn't tell us, but the video doesn't say. Right. But they show you something going up, and then Hillary's down. It's weird, but well, it's eye-opening. But I mean, it's eye-opening. But he's president, right? Good or not, but he's the president. That's funny. So any applications where effective computing is applied that has caught your attention, besides anything you guys have done? That's like, oh, like that's an example, or that's pretty awesome. That we got inspired by that, or. One of the ones that's come up for us recently is human resources. Okay. And specifically, the pain point is, well, there's two. Is how do you select the best candidate for the position, and how do you try to predict if that person is gonna stay with us, in our company. So basically personnel rotation. So the
Yeah.
relationship between, who you hire, make sure it's the best person and
Uh-huh.
that it's the right fit, so that this person, meshes with our culture, our values, and remains. So that's an interesting problem that we've been thinking quite a bit
Okay.
about, and I mean, it's a novel idea. It's certainly very. I mean, if you think about, the size of the market is huge.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, every
I mean,
organization
they all hire,
hires,
and they're going to
right?
have these problems all the time.
Exactly. I mean, even universities, right, for students. So so that's one of the latest eye
Yeah.
openers that we've been chewing on.
Yeah. That's cool. Now, how do you because I don't know if you guys say it, but anytime anybody hears, in my case, when they hear the word, unless they're a little more educated on the topic, a little bit more, I mean, or towards the sides, business people who are more, educated on these topics. I mean, you still get some pushback when you talk about AI. It's like you're building a weapon, a nuclear weapon, but on your own. I mean, they somewhat see it like that. I mean, at least in my experience, I get that type of rejection, immediately, because like, oh my
Fear.
God, yeah. How do you exactly? How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that when people have that rejection? Because this is a big obstacle that we have to overcome
Mhm.
for these technologies to to permeate.
Certainly, certainly. Because it is innovation, it, you know, right now it really is more of a niche market at this point. And it's still growing, but how do we, education is a big one, and so that's one part, and just even on the educational side, we're starting to not starting to see, but just as a matter of fact, and it's happened for us as well, just interest, working with universities. So there's I know there's MBA programs in the US that have already integrated the use of emotion
Emotional.
recognition, um, in as part of like the MBA programs. So
Okay.
that's one avenue that is working. We've seen interest from two different universities here in Mexico as well that want to work with us
Okay.
in order to create that platform to generate the know-how for how to use our Vibe Tech platform. The other one is privacy, right? That's a very big issue because the question is, you have the technology, but how do you use it?
Yeah.
And then you talk about, Big Brother. If you just randomly walk into a store and there's a camera there, and the camera could detect your emotion, some people would be like, great, that's awesome. I mean, if I
Yeah.
go to a hotel
Awesome.
and I'm walking in the door and they know how I feel, and if I'm a little sad, then they're gonna maybe give
Do
me a little bit
something.
more to kind of cheer me up. Or if I come in angry, they're gonna know how to deal with me. They're gonna, help maybe
Yeah.
improve the quality of my life, right?
Yeah.
I get better customer service. The people
Yeah.
that are providing a service,
Yeah.
know the emotional state I'm in
Yeah.
and react accordingly. So that's those will be the early adopters, right? Then you have resistance from those people that say, it's like, these are my emotions and
What are
this
you
is
gonna do
my
with them?
information. What are you gonna do with it? And and they're very jealous. They're very jealous of that, and that's not gonna go away.
Yeah. No, that's not gonna
That's
go away.
certainly, but then the question is, how do you communicate that? Or how do you use it in such a way that that's transparent?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's why you have the privacy laws.
Yeah.
Basically, the privacy laws give you the option to opt out if you so choose.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, like for example, I mean, you all use social networks and Google and all these things. We all, I mean, the ones who are more educated on these topics, we understand that while most of these things are free, they're really not, because we're giving away our information, and then that's being used to put advertising in our faces, right?
Correct.
But this is, I believe that that this is a little bit different, simply because I'm giving you either an insight into what's going on up here. I mean, it's in context, obviously, and reading my face, but at the same time, you're snapshotting not snapshotting, it's taking a snapshot of my face.
Right, take a picture of your face.
Yeah.
Right.
While I'm doing something, right?
Right.
It's a little bit like,
yeah.
I mean, I'm educated on these topics. For me, it's like you said, oh, you're gonna see my face. Oh, that's cool. You're gonna give me all these things. For me, it's like, wow, it's cool. Different, right? Most people, it's like if Disney decided to do this tomorrow, and then how many people go through Disney every day? Thousands and thousands of people. I was thinking of an example before I chat where because I went to Magic Mountain about 2 weeks ago, and the pictures, they take a picture when you're
absolutely. They don't necessarily ask you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
We don't know. Yeah. When I was there, I was thinking about, because we were going to have this conversation, we were planning it, and I was already thinking about it when I took the picture. I mean, I've been not hundreds of times, but a bunch of times to Magic Mountain. But when I saw the picture again, because it's been a while since I've gone back, and I was like, man, did these guys even know that they have like a huge database of people's, the patterns in the shirts, how many,
how do people dress?
They have all this information about people and their different faces, and
how do they use it?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just one snapshot; it's in different rides. So at different times of the day, I mean, it's like a huge amount of information you can. I mean, a smart
data, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, this is insanity. I mean, nobody's asking us. Do they keep the photos in there? I mean,
what are they doing with it?
If not, we don't buy them. Do they keep it? What happens, right? I started thinking about these things. I was like, God damn, because this is like if you're thinking like a strategy to capture emotions and all these other things, I mean, you got one right there. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of people, right? So imagine if Disney tomorrow started doing that, but actually taking it for like the example you gave, it's like all these people are coming in. Obviously, everybody's happy, well, to a certain degree. That's the face you have. How do they use that? I mean, I'm just thinking out loud, man. I'm a big fan of Disney. I've studied them before. I even paid for the Disney Institute thing to give me the tour to the park and stuff. So I understand how they work. That's why I'm also thinking, do we even do this stuff? Maybe they're not telling us. I don't know.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they were already.
They do a bunch of tracking with the new thing, the bracelet, but that's more of a location stuff, and your behavior as to how you're moving. But this is different.
Yeah, the emotions.
It's different.
Just if the ride is intended to generate fear, are you feeling fear?
Yeah.
If the ride is intended, to create surprise at a certain point, does it generate surprise? And so having many people do it, validates whether or not the emotion that they're trying to extract from you is actually the one that is being done. So certainly, this would be a tool in addition to all of the other ones that I'm sure that they've developed over time, because Disney didn't, it's been at it for a very long time. Every single movie.
Yeah.
Right? And the theme park itself.
Yeah. In Japan, when there's in the speed train, they measure they captured people's facial recognition when they got off the plane, off the train. I don't remember which town it is or which stop it is, but they do this because they're actually measuring, like in the morning, how people are feeling just through facial recognition, and this is huge amounts of people.
Right.
Millions of people. Maybe not millions millions in the whole country, but in one stop, that's hundreds and thousands.
Right.
It's a huge database of just
and
day through day.
What's really amazing if you think about it, it's like today we have thermometers. It tells us what the temperature is outside.
Yeah.
Right. And we have people that forecast the weather, and we get weather forecasts. And now Watson is working on forecasting weather, for example. So we have things that help us, devices that help us measure things like temperature, and then devices that help us forecast temperature.
Yeah.
Imagine a device that measures moods of many people.
Many people, yeah.
Right. So if you were a city official and there was an event going on, and if there was a way to capture the emotions of all of the people at that event, then you could have information that can help you deal with that event. You know, whether it be, whatever it may be, depending on the scenario, depending on what it is, to help you prepare. And if you're trying to create an event and you're trying to, elicit certain, emotional response, and you can now measure whether or not that's the response that you're issuing. But this is the camera. You're just looking at me right now. This is one-on-one. In a scenario like that, imagine being able to do it with lots of people and to aggregate that information. So if you have that type of aggregate information, using the example for the train in Tokyo, and people's moods, then if you want to improve their experience, now you have information that can help you, maybe obtain ideas to change the environment somehow in order to change that. So if they're sad every morning, how can you change the environment to
change their behavior,
to change their emotion,
their emotion, state of mind
at that point in time. And obviously we're looking at it from a positive perspective,
of course,
right? So we're looking at this from a way to improve people's lives at the end of the day is what we're trying to do.
Exactly.
But going back to the fear mongers,
it's part of it.
It's just I mean, we try to be ethical about it. I mean, everybody who goes through our platform, tell them that it's going to be, and their data is anonymous, right? And we have security controls over the images and data that we're capturing from people. But the fear mongers are going to be like, oh, what if somebody wants to use it against me, or things of that nature? And so that's two sides of the story, right? But imagine having a like a group mood thermometer.
That's
or, what's the or if you could measure a city based on the emotion. Right. So if you have thermometers such as what's the best place to live, hey, now you have another data element to help you decide what's the best city to live on, based on the emotional.
Like, it's like I consultant for a local restaurant here in the city, and we were talking about how waiters should be able to be like a thermometer in a group setting where even just two people, I mean, even like a couple, why is the guy not talking? Then the waiter has to approach him. Hey, why are you guys not talking? Do something about it, right? Change the conditions. And that's what we were trying. Well, not what we tried. We did it too, but it required a lot of training because it requires you, as we spoke at the beginning, that you be very attentive to people and how they enter. What's their kind of feel for it, right? And your job as the hostess, but also the waiters, is to get that attitude to the place where you want it to, for them to have a great memory in their heads about their stay with you, right? All these types of things. It's the same thing in Disney.
Right. It's the customer service experience.
And now you want computers to do something similar for you, or more so like a tool, because the virtual assistant and the combination of vision with the AI text-based or language-based is like a long way to go. But right now, this is more, I think, more towards the short term, I believe. Using this as a tool for people to do that type of things, right?
Right. Yeah, no, it's a tremendous tool to measure emotion, and there's still a lot of education that needs to happen in the marketplace.
Yeah.
For people to understand how to use it. So we've been working, on just training for the people that use this, and in order to kind of help with that process. But like, as mentioned, at the end of the day, um, you know, sometimes, you know, the experiences that we have are just because maybe we don't understand, what we're feeling, or, we already put in effort to, especially with our closest, our loved ones and our family members, we're very sensitive to each other's emotions. But not everybody has those talents finally developed. Right?
Yeah.
So this is one way in order
Yeah.
to help that. So, we've been going through the information age. We believe that we're now entering the emotion
age. Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's true because there's more integrated. Society's become more, or technology is getting more integrated towards society now. Um, it's been ongoing to a certain degree, evolving, but I think over the last 10 years to now, and then the next 10 years, it's going to just explode rapidly, just because more people have more access to the tools to do these things. It's completely free. Everybody's coding something. They share up to GitHub, to Stack Overflow. I mean, this is insanity. And then you have the other trend, which is hardware. The cost of hardware is going down. Processing power is going down. I mean, you can put I'm sure you guys have this probably on Amazon or one of these, because you don't have you're paying for infrastructure anymore. You pay to the cloud. It's being done over there. All the processing power is everywhere.
Is in the cloud.
So all these things get us to a point where all this stuff, everybody has more access to these things. More brains have access to this stuff. Everything evolves more faster. I think, but for me, the question for me as somebody who's talks about innovation, does this stuff, is always the adoption part. Because even though it's moving more faster, it doesn't mean that the adoption happens as fast as things move, right? So,
correct.
What do you believe is what needs to be true for this type of technology to be adopted, to become more widely? Maybe an example of the barriers for people to accept this go down, and then we have all these things happening in Disney and in hotels and malls, kind of like the movie and Minority Report. You remember that towards the end of the movie, Tom Cruise walks into the to the store and recognizes him, tells, "Oh, Tom, how you doing?" or whatever his name was. Even though he had the guy's eyes, he put another guy's eye. The computer recognized the guy's eyes. That's how he. How far away are we from doing that? And it becomes normal. What do you guys think?
I think we're about 5 to 10 years out. Yeah, I think. I mean, you just see subtleties. I'll give it an example. The emojis that we send through either our text devices, or if you're on Facebook and you could, share your emotional state. So they're very popular.
Especially with the iPhone 10
brand
now.
new movie that just came out, based on the emojis, and so I think we're already seeing that. People sharing, not just words or images, but sharing emotional states. Of course, obviously, the younger generation is the one that's pushing that.
Yeah.
Right. So especially the use of just the emotions in this case. So that's our calculation. So it's still got a ways to go.
Yeah.
It's still nascent technology, but it's growing.
And you're probably familiar with the iPhone 10 now, right?
Yes.
With the Face ID.
It's got the face recognition.
And has that stuff, and then the emoji. My whole idea about making any type of technology easy to adopt, or whatever, any type of new product, period, is to make it fun. Because it eliminates the component of the fear. It puts you in a state of like, oh, surprise or excitement.
Mhm.
You know, it's a different type of excitement because when
Right.
you're having fear, you're excited in a different way. You're like, right? But this is like, I mean, you're already seeing videos on YouTube of, you know, different variations of the emoji thing people are posting. So that for me is like when I'm looking at these things, I'm looking at how are people using these things, but also who's ever positioning the technology in front of people's faces. In this case, you know, Apple. What is your approach? When I saw the iPhone 10 and it came out with this stuff, I was like, oh my God, here we go.
Right. So I
Here
mean,
we
they're
go.
using it to for you to be able to unlock the phone, but it could very easily also, tell you how you're feeling.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, it's like we were saying, it's a snapshot of your face every day. How many times do you open your phone?
Right.
There we go.
And that's data. You know, where is that person
Exactly.
located?
Exactly.
You know, what time of day?
Where yeah.
And I already use I already use tools. You know, I weigh myself in the morning to see if I've gained or lost weight.
While you were sleeping.
You know, I check the temperature. You know, now we're on the health and fitness side. We have the smartwatches that tell you your heart rate.
Yeah.
We have the apps where you can count your steps and add your food to estimate calories. So we've got there's a whole revolution of data, personal data that we're starting to capture, right? Whether it be on our wrist or whether it's on the phone, and it's data that we're using to track ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that it's a very natural progression to add to that list of growing data elements our emotional state. So like right now I could tell you, at what time my heart rate was 180 beats per minute, right? So I can maybe, if I have a device that can tell me, what, at minute number whatever, when you were in that meeting, this is what you were feeling. This is how you're responding to that information that you're receiving. And then you can use that to, try and modify your behavior if you so choose in the future, right? So I think it's valuable information, even just from a personal development perspective.
Exactly.
As well.
That's a good point. That's a damn good point. Get that information. And I mean, I've always said that all these different these habit creating tools or apps that you have on the stores, the reason people stop using them is because they don't value it for themselves, right? They want the app to do the work for them, but it's like a dashboard for yourself, and to be able to to monitor yourself. I mean, that's what it is. But you have to do it yourself. I mean, the app's not going to help you lose weight.
Exactly.
Just going to tell you,
hey, you still have to do it.
You still got to go do it. Exactly. All right. So, what is your advice, to companies that want to implement emotion AI into their business? How do you what do you tell them to how do they succeed with it?
At this stage, they're going to need help, right? I mean, you can do all the research, and you go out there, and there's already a lot of information on the internet, right? And there's tools that are being developed, such as ours, in order to do that. But it's still, all of the examples and the problems that we've been working with really have been like joining the expertise that we've been creating within the company with an actual solution. So if you see the value of how emotions can help you, then companies such as our own can help you implement
it.
So it's not just going to be like go out and do it.
Yeah. Oh, here's a tool. Use it.
Here's the
click
tool.
that button. It's gonna happen.
Right.
Magic happens.
So because it's new, because maybe your problem or issues you're trying to resolve is unique, then we can help create something specifically to help you. Right. And once you have that, you know, and this is just the nature of technology, right? We create solutions, and then you know another solution. You can continuously be innovating, and what we've found is that as we speak to people, people are actually very creative about how this technology can be used.
Yeah.
And so it's just I guess the question is, give us a call, netek.co. Happy to work with you and find a way to implement
That's cool.
emotion recognition technologies.
Okay.
For new applications.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, how can people, um, you know, can they download the app now? I mean, is it?
Yes, I'm at netek.co.
Okay.
We have the app available with VibeTech, so you can download VibeTech. And we've also just released an API.
Okay.
So if you're more advanced and you want to get in and create a solution, then we have an API that you can
Okay.
work with as well.
Okay. And out of the box, the application is facial recognition. So any type of camera on a laptop will work, or a computer will work. What are those webcams will work?
Right. So on your computer, it's Windows based at the moment, and so you can download it. It'll work. Well, we also have a web version. If you want to work it over the web, you can also do that. You just need to create an account,
Okay.
basically. And the VibeTech platform integrates EEG headsets. It works with three different types of headsets made by three different companies that we've enabled to work with the platform.
Okay.
And it also works with the camera. So camera on your HP computer will work, and we've got Surface laptops that we're using, and as well that it works. So that's just kind of standard. We've adjusted it so it works as standard cameras on
All right.
devices.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And just for my listeners, just so you guys know, I've already done this. I did the demo they did to me, and I did both the facial recognition and the EEG one. And I've never had that done before to me, much less to detect my emotions. So I was my mind was blown, and so that's why we're talking right today about this, because I was mind blown, and I was like, I gotta put you guys on my on my podcast, because people should know about this stuff. And so you guys should know that I've already gone through it. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool. I know for a fact, because I used the app to myself in a project I had about 3 months ago. It's a video I recorded myself. I did it with my phone, the first version. One of those quick ones, 2-minute ones. But then I got feedback, and they were like, "No, what's up with this video? I mean, you're talking about innovation, and you're doing like off your phone." And then I, decided to do it for real. Put some production in it, and then we put it through the test on Bike Tech, and we had different result, obviously, because now that video is the one that's up. So I mean, I've already used your technology. I wanted to share the information with you guys, so you get it from the source. And I invite you guys to head over to netek.co and download VibeTech and put it to use. I mean, as Sergio said, you don't need a whole lot to start, because all you need is the camera on your computer.
Right.
If you have a laptop, that's that one, or a webcam. It's gonna work, and it's pretty damn easy. You don't need to be a scientist to know any of this stuff to use it. Just gotta use it's as easy as opening an app on your phone. And that's it.
Right.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, Sergio, for sharing your insight with me and my followers. And is there anything else you want to say before we check off?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to basically have this conversation with you, and to all of you guys out there, and men and women, guys and gals. This is exciting stuff. It's emerging technology. I'm sure that around you there will be opportunities where you see that this can be used. Give us a call. Netek.co, and we're here in Tijuana, right on the border with San Diego. So, but this is global.
It's Mexican made. All right, guys, have a good one.